Hi guys, so it's Tom here from All Aspect Fitness and Simple Effective Learning. This is a video about a topic which is a bit of a random one. Some people don't talk about it, some people do, some people like to talk about it and others don't. I'm one of those people who don't really like to talk about this. It's not something I feel very comfortable sharing, and I find most people don't really understand. So this is a video about some anxiety and PTS. I'm going to start with something that happened to me yesterday. My wife and we decided we were going for a walk on the beach because it'd been a beautiful summer's day, and the dogs have been in most of it because it's too hot to walk them. We've got two Labradors. So we decided, right, we're going to go for a walk for the beach because the tide's in. And we thought, lovely, we'll do that. So it was about 6 o'clock, we started to get ready, and we were going out of my 9-month-old, and we were packing the car, packing the bag, and get everything ready that, parents need to get ready, and it's not a problem. But I suddenly had this overwhelming urge. I felt completely fearful. I was scared, terrified, would actually describe better. And I couldn't quite work out why. And my first train of thought was, I've had too much sun, and I just feel a bit sick from the sun. Being out all day, X, Y's and Z's. Maybe I've not drank enough. Maybe I've had something to eat the day before, or which was just playing me up. And I've just let it go, and I didn't think much of it. We got the dogs in the car. We got my son in the car seat. And I suddenly realised I was actually having an anxiety attack, and I was petrified. It was the oddest thing. I'm a physically strong, fit man, and I felt weak. I felt intimidated by the smallest thing. I saw some kids riding their bike around we live, and I felt scared. I was genuinely scared. And I'm not somebody who gets scared often. I don't really, it's not something that I show or I even recognise very often. I've done door work, and I've been in some fun situations in the past. That's never bothered me, but yesterday I felt ill. I just felt completely helpless. I felt weak mentally and physically. I felt that I could be intimidated by anybody. And I've only been in the car about 30 seconds, and I felt I'd lost control. I felt I'd lost control of me, and that scared me again. That made me even more, oh no. And these are a few of the thoughts I had whilst I was driving to the beach, which is about 10 minutes from where we live. My wife's going to run away. Someone's going to kidnap my son. My dogs are going to be attacked by the dogs. I'm going to get beaten up and stabbed. I'm going to lose control of the car. Someone's going to crash into me. And I just the strangest thoughts was coming out of my head. And I let these thoughts go because you have to sometimes not fight it, and you have to sometimes just let it manifest and let it come through. And I remember thinking to myself, right, focus. Start from the beginning. What's happening? I'm having an anxiety attack. Okay. That's okay. You can have one of those. It's okay. Don't worry. Secondly, what's going on? I'm scared. What are you scared of? And you answer your own question because it's in your own head. This whole conversation's in my own head. It's not a loud one. I'm just saying it loud. And 3, how can I regain control? Now that's the important question. Firstly, why am I that way? Because I'm going for a walk with the dogs and my son and my wife, and it scares the life out of me because my whole world is in that car. Okay, that's my why. How? Well, my wife's going to run away. My son's going to get kidnapped. My dog's going to get tabbed by other dogs. That's my how. That's how it's going to just unravel in my own mind. And thirdly, the important question, how can I gain control? So I took control of the situation in my own mind. Okay. How do I regain control? By acknowledging it. Yes, done that. By knowing the situation. Yep, I've done that too. So my next tip is, if you have a negative thought, enforce it with a positive action. So the negative thought for me would be someone's going to crash into the car. My positive action was rewarded when I safely parked up at the beach. My next thought was for myself that I'm going to get into a fight with somebody and I'm going to get seriously hurt because I'm inferior, because I'm weak, and all this sort of stuff. So the only positive action I could have was to actually talk to a stranger. So we got out the car and there was a gentleman next to us, and he looked at a picture of somebody you wouldn't speak to. You crossed the road to avoid this young man, and he was tattooed, he was wearing a sleeveless shirt, he had long hair, he had earrings, necklaces. He just had the epitome of somebody you would cross the road to avoid. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to talk to him. I'm not sure when, but he's parked his car next to mine, so I'm probably going to see him again. I'm probably going to talk to him, and I will talk to him. As the evening progressed and we were there for an hour, the dogs were playing fetch in the sea. I was throwing a stick. I had Arnold in the backpack, and my wife was taking some beautiful photos, and we were having a lovely occasion. But in my mind, I was in turmoil. In my mind, I was just trying not to freak out. Anyway, we went back to where we were sat to sort of pick up our bits and pieces, and the gentleman parked next to us, the guy you'd crossed the road to avoid, he was walking towards us, and I was like, come on Tom, say something. You have to enforce this positive action, make this a positive action. He is not going to do anything. So I looked at him and I said, hey, how you doing? And he replied was, I'm great, it's a lovely evening. I was like, yes. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And I looked at his dog and I went, that's a beautiful dog. And he just, thank you. I said, what breed is it? It looks like a dingo. And he said, well, yeah, I get that. He said, it's an Alsatian cross with a Malamute. And I was like, oh, wow. So how old is it? And he went, it's 6 months. And this 6-month-old dog was nearly as big as my full-grown Labrador. And I said, wow, Malamutes and Alsatians are big dogs. Is it going to get much bigger? And I was just thinking to myself, you're having the conversation, you're winning, you're taking back control. You remembered how you did it. You know that the situation cannot go any worse. You know that the situation is not going to transpire into aliens attacking the earth and a tsunami wave killing everyone on the beach. It's not going to happen. They're just thoughts. But they're negative thoughts, and you have to reinforce them with a positive action. And it is very fearful and it's very scary, but you must take control. And we had this conversation, and this guy was an absolutely lovely guy. He was really polite, he was very well spoken, and he was just a really, really charming young man. And I thought, wow, a guy who would probably, if you saw him, you crossed the road. But to speak to, what a lovely young man, what a lovely fella. And he said goodbye to me, I said goodbye to him, and he walked off with his son and his dog. And I just thought, wow, thank God, I'm still alive, no one's beating me up. The moon's not fell out the sky, so the thought process in my head I took control of. I acknowledged what was going on. I understood what was happening to me. I worked out how I was going to manage it, and I'll condense that a little bit more. So the 2 top tips that I can give people who suffer with anxiety or panic attacks is, firstly, know your signs. Know how your body or your mind reacts to certain situations, and you just have to pay attention. Your mind is telling you, and your body is going to be telling you. You'll have a chemical change in your body, which your heart will exaggerate, and your breathing will become exasperated, and you'll start. Okay, that's normally the first sign something's going on. So, top tip 2s. 2 top tips. 1. acknowledge something is going on. That's the important bit. You must acknowledge it. Because if you don't acknowledge it, then you've missed the opportunity to control it. 2, think back to when you last had that moment and how you controlled it. A moment where I last felt like that was I went to a pub to watch England and Ireland in the Six Nations in Bristol, and I was meeting up with some friends, and I had lots of thoughts. I was actually nervous about this day 3 days before the actual game. That's how fearful I was. That's how scared I was. And I went to the pub, and there was all these people, and they were absolutely lovely. I knew them all pretty well, and they all said hello to me, and they all very, very welcoming. And one of my friends was there, and I love her to bits. She's a wonderful, wonderful person, and we get on very well. And I was intimidated by her. I was scared by her. I don't know why. I just had this horrible, overwhelming feeling she hated me, and that she never wanted to speak to me, and I was like scum on her shoe, and she was going to beat me up and leave me in a, and all these weird thoughts popped into my head. And the contrast could have been different. We had a little chat, we shared some talk. At the end of the night, we had a little hug, and I went home. And, it was absolutely normal, it was absolutely fine. But my mind raced away. But I controlled that situation back then by having a positive action. So I positively interacted with her, and I positively spoke to her about what was going on my day and how things were, as to how she was. And we had a good conversation. Despite my brain saying something different, what actually happened was very positive. So a negative thought into a positive action. I really do hope you got something from this video. I really hope you can use those 2 tips. And if you did miss them, I've not made them very clear. This is the 2 top tips. Acknowledge that's happening, acknowledge it, and control it as best as you can. Thinking back to when you last had that moment, thinking back to how you last controlled that moment, because that will help. And secondly, a negative thought followed by a positive action. So if you have a negative thought about something, you must try and reinforce it with a positive action, because it's the only way your brain can learn. It's okay to have these thoughts. It's okay to be scared. For somebody like me who is a physically robust man, and I'm physically very strong, and I've been in some fun situations in the past. Even I get scared, and even I wish other things, but I control them by thinking back to when I last coped, and I acknowledge them, and I understand that this anxiety and my PTS is a part of me. It makes up part of my personality, but it will never define me. I will never let it define who I am. And that's a very powerful thought. If you can acknowledge it, and you can control it, and you can say, I know you're there. I know you're with me right now, but I am not going to let you control me. Because it almost is like a split personality. Funny thought. I saw one of my very good friends from school the other day, and we were just chatting away, and we're very open about what we suffer with. He unfortunately has bipolar, which is horrendous. And I said to him, I've worked out a way of coping with my depression. And he said, what's that? I said, well, with PTS, generally you have moments of anger. And I'm a big Marvel fan. And I just went, well, I'm the Hulk. I'm constantly angry. And that's how I cope. Because I just know it's there. I know it's a part of me. It's like, okay, fine. I am. I'm constantly angry, but I just hide it. I don't use it. And that's my door closing, because I've got the window open. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you got something useful from it. And I really hope that in some way, if I can help one person, then this video was completely worth it. If I can help a few more people, then fantastic. Just letting you guys know that you're not the only people, because it can feel like we are the only ones in the world who have this problem, and there's no one to talk to. There are lots of people to talk to, but just got to find your way. and I hope you can find a little method that I teach can help you by controlling what's going on, acknowledging it, and then working out how you last coped with it, and then giving it a positive action. You must follow through the positive action, because it's never as bad as what our brains say it is. Take care, everybody. Enjoy whatever you're doing, wherever you are in the world. Try and find some happiness, and it's okay to be okay.